Welcome to the Seed Your Success podcast. Today, my friends, we're hopping into wealth. That's right. We are amongst the largest transference of wealth in world history. It has begun. It's not fully disclosed in the public quite yet of this transition, but as a studious researcher and someone that will uncover every stone until I can align my truth with what I have learned and feel like I'm back into alignment with flow of where this beauty of truth on earth is moving. That's what this podcast is about today. It's about the wealth prism on peace and profit. So we're going to dive into human potential, right? Our lifestyle design and living in this ebb and flow as the driver and the designer in our visionary purpose in our business. And when I say wealth transfer, there are going to be individuals, these different circles that I run in, whether it's digital assets and understanding the influence of XRP. Now, you may not know what XRP is, but many claim it to be the gold of the new digital system and XLM as the silver. And so if you go back into Apple and Microsoft and just at the very starting point of a catalyst of something that is about to take off, those that have been astute to not only understanding trends in the future, but also aligning their truth and understanding of business principles is key in this wild unknown. And the journey is always packed with ups and downs and twists and turns. When we really lean into understanding that when you start to see yourself as this ever-changing river rather than a stagnant pond, my friend, that's when the real magic happens. Your perspective shifts as you open up and widen out all the different puzzle pieces coming together for yourself. And instead of seeing obstacles as immovable boulders, you start to see them as opportunities to really shift, to reroute, to pivot, to change your course in the process. And you become an even more extraordinary version of who you are and called to be. So really the beauty of all of it is that we're not talking about theory in this podcast. We're not just chatting about abstract concepts of something to inspire you. It's real, it's practical, it's life altering. And it's the nurturing of the self-acceptance of the roles that you've played and the purpose you step into and the fluidity of that self, where we're actually studying the stage for incredible growth, which then becomes this delightful dance of pure transcendence. So what we want to remember is that the key to unlocking this next transformation lies in your hands. It's about choosing to challenge your beliefs, daring to transform your behaviors, and having the courage to rewrite your life path. Not on Lone Wolf Island, I call it. Been there way too long in my life. But as the author of your life story and allowing others to come into it and play as a harmony. You are a work of art, my friends. And today we're going to be discussing how to reach peace and profit, that you can have both. And then also understand the structure of the wealth prism, which was identified and wrote about years ago from my mentor, Roger Hamilton. Now, I want you to imagine a life where you can experience both peace and prosperity. And in this life, if you're solely focused on grinding, hustling, you're in the beast mode of how systems have been running for so long that are now shifting and changing very quickly. You may find yourself making a lot of money. However, when you look at this pursuit, it comes at a cost. And when we unplug from this past matrix, from these belief systems, from the hierarchy versus the heterarchy, you really lose and or you risk the loss of your relationships, maybe your marriage, your children may drift away from the right path. And to achieve both peace and profits, you can't approach it as a delicate balancing act because true balance may never be attainable. We all know this to be true. Instead, you strive to increase your capacity, and your capacity is going to really be fluid in when I then, in not now, but in a moment, talk about the wealth prism. So by doing so, you are going to gain that wisdom, which is beyond mere knowledge and transcends what monetary value is. And I always emphasize that wisdom is knowledge applied. And interestingly, I've encountered numerous individuals who I've done healing sessions with, whether it's hypnotherapy, very successful individuals who possess impressive degrees from even the most prestigious institutions. And these individuals are undoubtedly intelligent, but they lack wisdom. And despite years of grinding, studying, and practicing, they haven't learned how to effectively apply their knowledge to generate harmony, to generate substantial profits. Now, I will be honest, I am in the pursuit of that transition right now as well. And what I'm going to talk about today is how to look at the wealth prism and assessment that I give out, your genius assessment, your wealth dynamics assessment, and allows you to see what game you're playing now and what game you should be playing pertaining to your purpose, your values, and your true nature. So your purpose over your role, there are two very different matters at play. So it's important to understand the roles that you've played versus your purpose. I'm a hairstylist, I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm a digital creator, I have a tokenized coin. That's not my purpose. Being a mom is a role, not a purpose. Similarly, being a teacher doesn't define your purpose. If you get fired from your teaching job, does that mean that you've lost your purpose? Absolutely not. Your role may change, but your purpose remains. And what I've come to find in what I love most is transformation and seeing the life and creativity come to life in others. So in my personal belief system, rooted in absolute faith that is foundational, I believe that truth and living in agape, in that life source of the I am that has granted me this finite period of time on this planet that I will also transcend and live forever in my spiritual essence. To reflect that love to humanity is my purpose. So my purpose, and I think this applies universally, is to reflect heaven on earth, to embody and radiate that love, that joy, that peace, that patience, that kindness, that humbleness, that goodness, that gentleness. Because I, just like you, have been through also the long suffering. And when we witness conflict and turmoil on this earth as we are right now, be it in politics, economics, non-trustworthy pieces of, if you ask me, and yes, pieces of shit, different types of people that have lorded over and siphoned off of our pure energy for so many years, we still have to go within ourselves. And is often a result of our failure to really maintain that environment of those beautiful heavenly qualities within our own soul versus looking outside ourselves. So we may have deviated from being that vessel of goodness, what I call transcendence in our hearts, in our communities and tribes and workplace. And when we lose touch with this essential purpose, it becomes nearly impossible, my friends, nearly impossible to have both peace and profit. You may end up with one or the other, but not both. To achieve both, you must first align yourself with your North Star, your primary purpose on this planet. And secondly, you need to align your core values with that North Star and seek the knowledge to understand how to leverage your time and wealth. And that's what we're going to move into next here. But how then can we put the breakthrough of these barriers that we have in our life, whether we set them for ourselves or there's been obstacles of money or the exchange of knowledge that you haven't been able to break through. And so what we're going to do is we're going to apply peace, profit in that boom. And this is going to be the start of that boom of just the understanding of the knowledge of what is shared here today. And when you can do what you want with it. But I really believe in the wealth prism as a collective in harmony. So as I talk about the wealth prism, understand there's two facets. There's one, how can you create a team that you have wings of other people that have the opposite of your elemental profile, your genius? I am a wood energy. I'm fire energy, right? I love to educate and teach and enjoy helping transform the energy in a room where some people are very docile and they're quiet. They're metal energy. I need metal energy in my life so that I can finish projects that I don't have the energy to finish. So if we move through the rest of Roger Hamilton's prism and North Star, I want you to start taking into context this perception of the boom, the breakout, who you can be supported by and how it can all come together as team players and not a lone ranger, and how that is the very thing that compounds time and moving up the prism levels. So throughout my life, I have repeatedly breaking out of my mental mediocrity. And so this mediocrity is, I can't even say the word right now, right? And this stagnancy is just residual in the mind. Their beliefs thought over and over again. And so to break free from it means changing your mindset and your beliefs. And when the world feels overwhelming, you find yourself saying, I'm overwhelmed. That's a time that it's time to boom, to break out of that mediocrity. So the truth is, and even someone that has an overwhelmed nervous system a lot of the time with neurodiversity, I'm not really actually always overwhelmed. I'm simply not well organized. And chances are individuals like our friend Elon Musk, they've handled a lot more weight than I or you are experiencing. And it's not that you can't handle it. You just haven't really seen, and or I haven't in times as well, I'm speaking for myself, learned how to expand the capacity to deal with what's on your plate. So when you pause and break out, I call it shut up and shift out. You shut up and you wide open, look out the left side of your eyes, the right side of your eyes, up and down. You take the context of the room and gets you out of that freeze response instead of resisting more. And you pause and you ask yourself, if I can become better at managing what's on my table, what would that be right now? What can I say yes to? What can I say no to? What can I complete today to relieve the weight off my body and spirit now and moving into tomorrow? That is the breakthrough of the vibration that creates the sound barrier. That boom of looking at this saying, where do I need to fixate, shift, say no to, say yes to, and break through? It's the vibration that allows you to levitate out of that level in which we're going to talk about the prism. It's breaking that sound barrier. And the interesting thing is this about sound barriers is that you can only get the boom if the pressure in the atmosphere is heightened at a level so high that it can't resist anymore that barrier, right? Breaking through that boom is because you don't want more. You don't want to be overwhelmed. But on the other side, resisting that, on the other side, breaking through the pressure is the astronomical amount of peace. So that's where you say you have to push. And until something happens, as you persist, not on the unhealthy burnout, but that you persist, you ask for help, you see the blind spot. Until something happens, you progress until something makes you fly through that threshold and you don't give up. That's how you expand time and space as a collective and as a soul. So if you discover, now we're going to move into the prism, and each layers of these prisms is the wealth levels that go through each barrier. If you discover that, I'll speak for myself, I can bring value to your life, and that working together could give you an extra 24 hours in a day. Let's just explore the possibilities. Imagine 24 now plus 24 equals 48. And if we find another person who shares our common vision, but plays another role at the table, not great with my strengths, but great with their strengths, another 24 plus 24 is 48. But not just that, it's now 72. We can continue this pattern reaching 96, 120, and beyond. And by entering, right, that boom, that peace zone, the peaceful zone, we can merge our peacefulness 24 hours with others. Now, I understand that not everyone shares the same beliefs, but I'm going to pull out for context. It's just whether it's Hermetic principles or scripture, this just resonates. And it's in scripture and it says, I wish above all that my children would dwell together in unity. Why? Because it allows us to expand time. Together, we can accomplish what no single person can do alone. That's what we're being called to in this transition in the golden era. So suddenly one person put 1,000 to flight. Two can put 10,000 to flight. And when we come together in harmony, we form an unbreakable triple threaded cord that no one can break through because we are stronger together. This is why I've committed myself to helping people find both peace and profits and to do it as a collective. Every single healing session in my future is more so going to be more powerful as an amplification through the power of 8 than it is the power of one-on-one, right? And it's the peace that we come to that matters, because without peace, my friends, we can't expand our time. And that expansion, that equation is called the wealth equals value times leverage. Now we're going to talk money, my friends. Wealth is really being the driver and the designer of that equation. And this comes from my mentor, futurist Roger Hamilton. Now, there is a visual with this. I need you to look at the visual because it's really important for you to identify where you feel you are reflecting right now, so you know the game you're playing. And as we journey through our experiential and our entrepreneurial purpose-driven venture, we go through these different levels and we gain authority through them as we travel through our knowledge. And it's akin to shifting gears in a car. We're accelerating and we sometimes have to take off the leverage and we have to shift. And we're going to struggle for a while to implement these changes that we need to get to that next level, right? And that clutch briefly lets go, and then you create another flywheel. And interestingly, when observing others in these different levels, we often recognize that the solutions they need to progress yet struggle to implement are similar stages and changes in ourselves for, I found and or find, 3 reasons. It's an unconscious attachment, an unconscious contract as we develop of beliefs at our current level that we're comfortable, lack of clarity of the levels of wealth and the nuances it takes of a deeper understanding to get to that next level, and the bravery, my friends, to pursue what's necessary, and then working at the same level of the mental and energetic resonance, which is said best in this quote: we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. So if you're always a doer, which I am breaking out of right now, then there's no room to step back, capture all the skill sets needed to take the time to excel and move that ladder and that purpose, right, into that next level. It's that grand tapestry of nature and growth that demands that shedding to make room for the new. And so likewise, it's our vision as we embrace the discomfort and we gain an understanding of the prisms of wealth to excel and rise in your desires. Now, thought can only go as far as language that paves the road. And a short thing on AI, we understand that time is moving much faster. And if we want to expand the limits of what's possible, we have to create the knowledge, the ideas, and the beliefs that permeate and influence that language and who we discuss our dreams with, so that we can all come together and work through the prisms. Now, I say that to say you can't do it all, nor should you. And while it's not possible always to obtain every single level, understanding them greatly benefits both us as humanitarians and entrepreneurs as we understand the different levels of a project that is so bigger than ourselves, to understand the different players of the game, the different levels of the game, and how to bring harmony so that you can reach that bigger outcome. So wealth has value and leverage, right? Wealth can be defined as the outcome of combining value and leverage. And to create a significant impact in the world, we must learn how to navigate the flow of the resources, the opportunities within community. And before we can effectively do that, we have to start by mastering our personal flow and then progress to mastering market flow. This is why I start everybody in any coaching, any healing program, any personal support I can give anybody is the genius assessment. Understand your elemental flow archetype so that you understand where your essence of flow is moving and where it's stagnant, and where you can focus in on your genius, which is your true nature and purpose. It's instinctive. So we don't want to throw ourselves in the deep end, right? But we do want to give ourselves enough of a push so that we can swim and tread the waters and start to understand the distance, right, to the shore, right? Just like a novice captain, we initially learn from others who are already embarked on their journey, and you join a crew of existing ships. And before we can board those ships, we must first learn how to swim. I've been studying decentralized markets, the creator economy. I'm obsessed with the future of finance and how it's going to be a leveled playing field. So an example of this for me is I threw myself in the deep water. I said, okay, I want to have a tokenized community. I want my own coin and I want my own digitized asset. My friends laughed at me. They called me nuts. They still do. And those I tried to onboard with me didn't have the exact timing I wanted, but I stayed the path. My clients didn't understand it, but I stayed the path. This doesn't mean I built the nodes for the network effect of the coin that it's built on, and how I use the coin as a token of utility, which is a service that my clients and community get when they own the seed token, which means you're seeding your truth so that you can grow a life that you love. It's a meaning to me. It's a deep meaning for me. But I learned how it all works together. I hired a mentor. I paid big money, my friends, to learn how tokenized assets work, from NFTs to creator coins, and how you can create a DAO so that all parties, just like a co-op, can benefit from a greater purpose and everybody gets to gamify their life and business for the better. So I learned, I asked, I paid for time and knowledge. I created. You have your own experiences just like mine. So there's these three prisms. And the journey of wealth can be viewed through three of the personal flow, the market flow, and global flow. So as you think about this transference of wealth as this transition of those that will be given great wealth for the research and the longstanding that they stayed the course, and we don't know the outcome, but they earn the right to move forward. Just like gears in the car, again, understanding the mastering of each level allows us to smoothly transition from one to the next, adapting, changing, asking questions, understanding, bringing people in, teams, companies, industries. And it all links to flow and wealth flow, from personal to commercial to universal. It covers the entire world of wealth that we live in now today that is going to be transitioning. So each prism includes those three levels: personal flow, market flow, and global flow. It just matters on how far it goes and the impact that it makes, which is then, as we come to a close, attached to the 9 levels of the wealth lighthouse. So you're always going to be at one level, and you could be at some of them, at a couple of them at any one time. So seeing all the levels will give you a full picture. That's why I want you to see the image of the different spectrums. And keep in mind that we're all a spectrum. I'm not talking about my ADHD spectrum. I'm talking about economic conditions. From being in debt to being a millionaire to controlling countries' taxes to being a global philanthropist, all of them go through 9 levels of the spectrum. And we're in that new era right now. We're entering the new era where we're bridging the previous darkness from the previous wealth gap that made us more or less powerless of a rigged system. And our soul and our strategy now are rebuilding the wealth ladder so that we can start learning and rising and collaborating together. And the spectrum is always here. Every level of the spectrum plays an economic role. And the spectrum is really, my friends, a map to your wealth and the game that you play to get there. And your level determines your reality. Every level of flow and level is a consciousness level. When we move levels of our flow, that changes, and so does our awareness. And the problems and the opportunities that you see will depend on the level that you are at. And when you change a level, what appeared to be a big issue often then just simply disappears. Your wealth is your choice. So when you know your level, you can choose to stay at that level. You can move up, you can move down. Each of them has their cost and benefit. But knowing where you're at in the level, who you can bring in to help exceed the next level as a community, as a corporation, when you understand those levels, we can get stuck, but we have people around us and we have our genius to rely on to go back to knowing what we do best, to follow your natural path from one level to the next. Now, I'm not going to go through each of them in fine detail, but there are different prisms. There's 3. Infrared level is when you're a victim. The red level is when you're in survival. Orange level is when you're a worker bee, right? Yellow is when you start to play the game, right? You forge your own journey. You know how to create value and you leverage it. You make money in your niche, right? You've created that level of freedom. Whereas the bottom, the red, is starting to make money, but the infrared is you're still just learning something new and you have yet to attain levels of knowledge to move forward. Now, the green is going to be when you're in performance. And that is really when we start looking at if there is a windfall of wealth and you're lived a life in the red zone and you get an abundant amount of money, and this is my point of the entire podcast, and you've gone from self-employment to now being a performer and managing teams and having to be at that level, right? It's an enterprise level. So who do you need to bring in to understand enterprises? Because green works from the inside out. It's a leading high-performance team and enterprise, which then moves into the conductor, which is the blue level. And this entirely frees you of having your hands full. You have multiple investments. You have mastered both cash and capital. You understand and speak fluently at that level. Then there's the indigo, which is the trustee. You're playing in the ground of millionaires and billionaires. And when you have mastered that enterprise prism, trust becomes your greatest asset. So now thinking again, if you lived a life in the red, but you get a windfall of money, how do you go from that to a purple or violet to now being a composer, which literally prints a new type of currency and floods it into the system? You have dominion and you're a leader. You're a leader of community. You're stepping into the role of composer and rewriting the literal rules that the world runs on to play fairly and to provide wealth for others. And at the top is the ultraviolet level. I love this because it sounds completely like the chakra systems, right? So if we look at that top level, it's the level of frequency that lasts over generations. And that's the legacy. That's the legend. That's the rise and the fall. And so really at the end of the day, all you need are zeros to ascend these levels of wealth. And those zeros are representation of old beliefs being reduced and dissolved, bringing people onto your team, understanding the distinct levels of wealth and the game that you have to play at each level. And it's more of my hope that this is an awareness of those that come into this great windfall of wealth, that we really look at the different prison levels. So you understand your zone of genius, the game that you're playing right now and the game you want to play, and finding the support around you to help you do that. And that's what I do in the Growth Guild community. That's why we run through these assessments and we drill how to get back into our flow and dream again. So if you're going from $1 to 100 million, it just requires, let's just start with a million, right? It requires 6 zeros, my friends. And this concept showcases the power of zero and the immense growth potential as we ascend this ladder of wealth and consciousness in this new golden era. But first and foremost, understand the skill sets, understand the belief sets, understand that you're not playing roles, you're actually playing in your purpose. So to wrap it up, comprehending these levels of wealth and the skill sets needed for each level is invaluable. Doesn't mean you need to perform it, but it does please understand that bringing the key individuals that fulfill the entire I Ching, the Ikigai, the essence of all the different elements that make us who we are. All of us have those different elements of flow, the wood, the fire, the metal, the water. But mastering personal flow is first and foremost. And understanding your genius, take the genius assessment. It's free. I will link it into this. You can take the Masterclass and get into the Growth Guild and be around people that are damn serious about understanding stewarding wealth in this next phase. Understand market flow, personal flow, and embrace how you can grow your vision into a global level of flow if that's what you desire to do to make a profound impact on the world. So if you take anything away, even if we don't personally reach the highest levels of wealth, understanding them empowers us to create meaningful projects and manage these resources effectively. And that means human beings. Going back to my purpose, reflecting and radiating truth and life and being the river of many waters and speaking for everybody that came before of the futures that we can create with our words for the future. So if you have any questions, you want access to the assessments, or you want to join the Growth Guild, reach out. All of my love, all of my life, and I hope this was an inspiration to you today. I trust that it was, and continue to follow your path and ask for help. And know that you're beloved and you deserve everything that you desire. Follow your purpose. Get into flow. And I love you, and we'll see you on the next one.